This month in RAD Studio, it's raining 10.3.2 patches, more news on Android 64-bit support, more Windows 10 webinars than you can point a stick at, and lastly, how enterprise connectors are giving us more project work. I'm Malcolm Groves from Code Partners. Welcome to This Month in RAD Studio. So if you watched last month's episode, I was getting all Nostradamus on you and predicting that we would see the 10.3.2 release in the near future. Well, my timing was a little bit off because I think within about 24 hours of me releasing that video, 10.3.2 was released. So while I guess I could claim some prescience, I didn't expect it that quick. By now you've probably seen a bunch of what's in there. There's the 64-bit Mac OS support, there's a bunch of C++ enhancements around code inside, and C++ 17 for Win 64, heap of RAD server stuff, which I'm actually going to go into on the Code Partners website and maybe in another video, because RAD server is really growing on me. It's always been powerful, but it's taken a little bit to crack open that power, I think. But a lot of the enhancements that are in there now make it much easier to get started, so I want to start doing a bit of a series on that. But even if none of that sort of grabs you when it comes to 10.3.2, I'd really recommend having a look at it. If for nothing else, then the IDE is so much snappier now. That they seem to have put a lot of work into just making the IDE faster, switching from the code view to the designer view, maximizing the IDE. If in recent versions, resizing and maximizing the IDE would make all sorts of flickering going on. That's just gone now. Like I say, switching between views is just instantaneous. So even if you're not interested in 64-bit Mac OS or C++ 17 or any of the lots of bug fixes that are in there, if you just want to have a nicer, smoother experience in the IDE, then I really recommend you grab 10.3.2. There's links in the show notes to the What's New video. It's only 5 minutes or so. Have a watch of that. That gives you a good overview, but really worth checking out, I think. Okay. The benefit of maybe being late to the 10.3.2 party is that there's a bunch of patches up there. Again, in the show notes you'll see links, but I think there's 4 or 5 patches have been released for 10.3.2. So, you know, the early adopters sometimes get the arrows in the back. Now it looks like some of the initial issues have settled down, and also the great server apocalypse of 2019 seems to have passed as well. So now, if you haven't jumped into 10.3.2, it might be a better time to do it. Like I say, there's a bunch of patches releases, but also many people that I know don't even think about upgrading to a new version until the IDE FixPack is available. And so the good news is IDE FixPack for 10.3.2 is also available. So there's kind of nothing holding you back at this point. The update's out, the patches are out, the IDE is faster and smoother, and IDE FixPack is out. So really worth going and grabbing it. Now that 10.3.2 is out, probably the other big question on a lot of people's minds is around Android 64-bit support. So a couple of updates on that. Embarcadero have published an update on their website about the Android 64-bit support, the timeline we're going to get it in, and that sort of thing. In addition, if you didn't already see, Embarcadero have arranged with Google to get you an extension to the deadline for publishing 64-bit versions of your Android applications. And again, there's an update on how to go about that on their website. So if you're doing Android in RAD Studio, definitely worth, hopefully you've already seen this, but if you haven't, go and check out how you can get an extension on your apps. Also go and check out what's the new updated timeline for Android 64-bit support, how you can get on the beta, all that kind of stuff. Okay. So if you've followed the Code Partners blog or watched some of the previous episodes, you've heard me carry on about the enterprise connectors before. I've become a big fan of these over the last 12 or 18 months, I guess. Really super productive way to get access to a whole bunch of external systems from within Delphi without having to resort to using the REST API. Kind of makes you an instant expert in a bunch of these other systems. Not quite, but it feels a little bit like that. Even just internally, I've taken a bunch of the integration and automation projects that I've had on my to-do list. You know, it would be good to be able to automate this, it'd be good to be able to automate that. I've taken them off just through using the enterprise connectors, because I don't have to spend time researching the REST API and how to connect and all the rest of it. I can just use FireDAC and throw SQL against these systems. Yeah. Anyway, I said I wasn't going to carry on about them, and I kind of have. The reason that I bring it up is that there's been an update for the enterprise connectors. 14 new enterprise connector drivers have been added for a whole bunch of systems. WooCommerce, MYOB, Trello, OneNote, Bugzilla, DocuSign, Amazon S3, 2 different SAP systems that I don't even know what they mean, but they're SAP systems, and a heap of others. What this means now is if I look at the systems we use internally at Code Partners, every single one of them, with one exception, now has an enterprise connectors driver. And so, again, I've been able to knock off a whole bunch more automation work to automate a bunch of tasks we do internally, just using enterprise connectors. So even since this update came out, I've knocked off a few more just because it's so fast and so easy to build these systems. Secondly, and maybe more interesting, is that some of these systems, our services, Code Partners services customers, are big users of. For example, DocuSign. We have one particular customer that we do services work for that are massive users of DocuSign. We've talked to them before, and they've had ideas before about how they could integrate their system with DocuSign and with a couple of others. But it's always kind of been on the list of, yeah, we'll get to that one day. Since this update's come out, we've been able to go back to them and say, hey, we can now do this for you much faster than we anticipated we'd be able to before. And so it's actually generated services work for us. And this update, which we just got as part of our subscription, has driven revenue for the company. So this kind of just blows me away. I'd already decided that the yearly cost of the enterprise connectors I'd paid for within the first month of using them. Now it's not only just paying for itself, it's generating revenue for us. So anyway, I think I started this by saying I wasn't going to carry on about them, and now I'm carrying on like a bit of a pork chop. So that's enough about enterprise connectors. If you haven't looked at them, really worth having a look at, I think. Embarcadero are running a promo at the moment where you can get it with enterprise, I think. So it's worth having a look at. But I've probably spoken enough about enterprise connectors. I've kind of fallen in love with enterprise connectors. While I've fallen in love with enterprise connectors, it seems like Embarcadero having a bit of a romance with Windows 10 at the moment. September is shaping up as being Windows 10 month. I don't know if it really is, but it looks like that. There are more Windows 10 webinars listed on their website for September than I think I've ever seen webinars held. Normally they have 1 or 2 webinars in a month. They've got like 10 or 12 or something listed on their website running through September, all focused on Windows and Windows 10. Now, given the vast bulk of the coding work done in Delphi over the years has been for Windows, and Windows 10 adoption of Windows 10 is going like crazy. Windows 7 is about to be de-supported. So if you care about Windows and you have in the back of your mind, as I think most Windows developers have, that Windows 10 is the sort of successful version, the most successful version we've had in a long time. Windows 7 is going away. Really worth checking out these Windows 10 webinar series that's coming up. Another webinar that I'd like to tell you about is one that we at Code Partners have happening in conjunction with Embarcadero in a few days' time. It's a great story, I think, of how a long-time Delphi shop was able to take their 20-plus-year-old Delphi 6 application, I think it is, and modernize it. Not just make it look prettier, recompile it, make it support Windows 10, but actually their application wasn't scaling. The company had already decided to replace it with something non-Delphi. They tried with SAP, they tried with another technology, maybe Java, I can't remember. Both of those projects failed to do rewrites. Eventually, the Delphi team got a chance to migrate their application to a microservices-based approach using Kubernetes and Docker, using a whole bunch of DevOps principles. And it's a fantastic story. I don't want to spoil it for you, but basically it's a success. It's running like crazy, and it's driven by 8 Delphi guys when a team from SAP and a Java team just failed to deliver on this project. Really great. I'll put a link in the show notes to how you can register. But if that strikes a chord with you in your workplace of an old Delphi code base that's maybe under a bit of pressure to be replaced by something else, really worth checking this out. Okay. A couple more things to wrap up for this month. If you've been following our blog for quite a while, if you go far enough back, I did a series of blog posts on TMS Aurelius, which is a object relational mapping tool for Delphi. Fantastic, big fan of it. Just works. It's modern. It's really cool technology. There's a new book out on TMS Aurelius. Definitely worth checking out. It doesn't have TMS Aurelius in the name. It's something like Delphi ORM or something. But if you've been curious about an ORM, whether it can help you, what the trade-offs are, whether it's a good thing or not, check out this book. It's great to see more Delphi books happening, but especially in this space, rather than being sort of more general purpose Delphi book, being very focused, especially on something like TMS Aurelius, which I think is a great product, really worth checking out. Last thing for this month, I just want to highlight a blog post from Michael Riley. He, again, was writing a little post about how he was taking a source code base from, I think, 2005 or something, and updating it. And along the way, he discovered or rediscovered a feature in the product that's been there for a long time, but many people don't know about. I've been a user of this feature for a little while, but it's nice to see blog posts where you get these happy little discoveries, not about a new feature, but about a feature that's probably everybody's got at this stage. It's the search for usages function. If you're not aware of it, check out this blog post from Michael Riley. Can be really useful tool for understanding what's going on in your source code. Okay, that's it for this month. As always, feedback's very welcome. Links for everything I kind of mentioned during that is in the should be in the show notes below. If you want to get notified when there's new videos, you can subscribe to the notifications here in YouTube. Otherwise, there's a bunch of links below to where you can follow us on all of the different places, Facebook, whatever. Otherwise, have a great month. We'll see you next month with what's new in RAD Studio. Cheers.